Hello friend, this is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and today for this Reseller Friday I want to talk to you about, is reselling easy or super hard? I had a number of comments come in that people are saying, well, so-and-so said that reselling is not easy. And so I guess because I've said that reselling is easy, then I'm supposed to be against this person, which is nonsense. Listen, I don't get caught up in the reseller battles and drama that people like to get into. I don't do any of that. I'm not going to attack somebody else because they have a different opinion. And listen, when you say something is easy, it is subjective, because for somebody else, maybe it feels hard. I'm coming at it from the perspective of, it is one of the easiest businesses to get into. One thing is you have to focus on treating it like a business. If you treat it like a job, it could be very different for you. It could feel very difficult. And I think that's one of the problems many people have, is they approach it like a job instead of like a business. So they're not planning for scaling up, which includes hiring employees. When they hire an employee, it's because they don't want to do more work. So instead of doubling up their efforts by getting an employee, they shrink their efforts and have the employee do the work, which is obviously not a way to a scaled up business. I've never been one to shrink from work. I've never been one to think that hard work is bad. And I've had jobs such as construction and roofing. Roofing in Texas in the middle of summer is not fun. That's a hard job. It feels like you're on a skillet being cooked alive. It is not fun. And it is hard. That's actually hard compared to eBay, where you're listing items with your phone or camera or whatever, and you're just on your computer. It's not difficult. Are there easier things? Of course. But are there easier businesses to get into? Absolutely not. Are there easier jobs? Of course. I had a job one time where I was a material handler for a company that made parts for Blackberries. It's a long time ago, obviously. And I kept going up the ranks until I got to a point where I did nothing. I just sat there, and because they weren't doing a lot of the work that at nighttime that they were doing during the day, I literally had a job that had nothing to do. That was easy, of course, but that was a job. I'm talking about businesses here. And when you approach reselling as a business, you're going to have a different mentality than if you're looking at it as like a job. Could you find easier jobs than reselling? Of course. Can you find easier businesses to get into and start running and scaling up than reselling? Absolutely not. Now, there could be something, of course. Like I said, this is subjective. There could be something, but I remember when I started one of my first tech companies, and I would have numerous times where I would work over 36, 48 hours in a row. And we're not talking about I took breaks all the time and went out to eat and took a lunch or whatever. We're talking about I ate maybe a package of chips or something during the entire time. And I had to have an assistant come in and tell me, hey, you need some water. You haven't drank anything all day. Because I was just busy working. And I was at the point where I didn't have the ability to hire somebody else to do the things I was doing in the business. And if I didn't do it, my business wasn't going to continue to grow and actually would have failed. So I had to do it. And I was the only person to do it because I didn't have the money to hire anybody else to do it. So that was it. And that was hard. It wasn't as physical as like the roofing was or the construction, but it was hard. Reselling is way easier than that. Because here's one of the things as a business. Now, I'm not talking about as a job, because you can make reselling terrible and miserable and difficult and just constant suffering. You can do that. When you have that job mentality and not the business owner mentality, when you have that negative, everything's so difficult and so hard because you have to learn a few things, you make it hard for yourself. But when you approach it as a business, really thinking about what you're doing each and every day. How can I improve? How can I scale up? How can I do the same work in less time? And when you're really focused on that, reselling is one of the easiest things. Now, here's the thing. Unlike a job, unlike working for somebody else, you are the one who controls how difficult or how easy it is. To get started is one of the easiest things in the world. Can it get difficult? Of course. When you're selling 2 or 3 items a day, it's not difficult. When you're listing 5 or 6 items a day, it's not difficult. When you're listing hundreds of items a day and selling hundreds of items a day, it becomes very difficult. And I should probably reword that, because it's not difficult because you know how to do it. It's not like every day there's some new problem you have to figure out that you could never figure out. It's pretty straightforward. You pack the items up, you ship them out. You list the items, you put them up and store them. It's not complicated. Yes, you can scale up to a level where it becomes a lot more difficult and there's a lot more work involved and it's not as easy as it was in the beginning. But it's still not hard. It's not, because you can always hire people as you go along and increase your efforts, double up your efforts by having new people come in that take over certain areas that you need help in. But to even get to that point is so easy. You have to get away from this negative mentality of looking at things as, oh, this is so hard for me and this is so difficult. And I get when you're beginning and you're just started, there's a lot to learn. But it also got to look at this. What is the cost to get going reselling? Zero up front, because you can literally take stuff from around your house or stuff people gave you and list it. How hard is it to figure out how to list? It's literally step by step as you are creating a listing, like on eBay, for example. And you can't leave out stuff that you need to do. So if there's some part you missed in the listing, you can't even proceed to list the item without completing that part of the listing. So it's literally step by step, taking pictures. Everybody can figure out how to take a picture. Use your phone, use a camera, whatever it is that works best for you. So your cost is minimal. The actual labor of listing an item is super easy and super quick. You can make it hard. You can make it take forever. Try to get your pictures so perfect. You're taking 50 pictures and you're having to tweak and edit. And yes, you can do that. You can make it very difficult on yourself, but it doesn't have to be. It's easy. Now, what about determining whether an item is worth buying for resale or not? How difficult is that? You go in eBay, for example, the eBay app, you search for that item, you go and click on sold listings in your filters, and you see, okay, I saw there's 120 of this item listed on eBay right now. When I went to the sold listings, I see 120 sold. I know that in the past 90 days, this has a 100% sell-through rate. For every one listed, one sold in the last 90 days. This is a good item to get. That's not complex. You don't need to go to college for that. You don't need to go read a bunch of textbooks for that. That's super easy. And that's something you can learn in 5 minutes and start implementing immediately. You don't need special software. You don't need special tools or equipment. You just use your phone that everybody just about has. And if you don't have a phone, you're probably not watching this video anyway. And reselling is not even something on your radar. So we got to stop pretending like things are so hard. Listen, I get it. It can be a lot to take in at first. And especially if you get into watching certain resellers and they try to make it seem more difficult. They try to put in more extra steps and everything. Well, you got to do this and they add like 5 or 6 extra steps for no reason, just to make it seem more difficult. Listen, I don't care if people think my business is super easy and anyone can do it. Who cares? I'm not trying to impress upon you, oh, it's so difficult and so hard. No, it's not. Yes, you can get to a level where it's a lot of high-performing activities and it becomes a lot more hard than the beginning. But for average people they're not even striving for 6 figures a year, it's not hard. It is easy. Yes, there's a lot to learn. Yes, there's a lot you got to do. But like I remember back years ago, you used to have to print your own labels. Today, you don't even have to do that. You don't need a printer. You don't need special software. If you have a single phone, you can do this. You can run this business. You can list everything from your phone. You can take all your pictures from your phone. You don't need to create a label because you can use the QR code and literally go to the post office and have them scan that QR code and they'll print the label for you. It's the easiest it's ever been at any time in history, and it'll probably even get easier because there's talk like AI coming in on eBay to actually create the listing for you. You just upload the pictures and it will create the entire listing for you, fill out all the item specifics and do all that. It is becoming easier and easier and easier. It is not difficult. Yes, it can become difficult, but you have to make sure that you're not making it more difficult for yourself. You're not talking yourself into believing for it to be more difficult than it really is. You're trying to make it hard so you can look like you're really working hard. You can work very hard in a reselling business, but it doesn't mean the business is difficult. It is easy. You can string along a lot more time in your reselling business and get a lot better results. And of course, with those better results mean more sales, which means more work, but this is not difficult. This is stuff you can do very easily. And listen, if you're having a bunch of problems, because sometimes people are selling things that are very difficult. You're selling bicycles, and those take a lot of work to pack up or whatever. Maybe you need to find something that's easier, smaller, easier to pack. If you're spending an hour packing one item that's sold, maybe that's not the best business for you. Now, maybe you're making $1,000 profit, and so that packing for 1 hour is actually worth the effort. That's all right. You have to determine that for yourself. It's your business you're running. It's not a job. Don't look at it as a job. Your employees who come to work for you in your reselling business, they have a job. You have a business, and that puts you at a higher level. Not saying they're lower, but you have to think about things that an employee does not think about. Somebody working a job does not think about. You have to factor in supplies. You have to factor in where you're getting your inventory from, how much inventory you're going to get, what kind of inventory you're going to choose. There's a lot of things that you have to do that's different as a business owner than just being a mere employee, somebody just working a job. But none of these things are difficult. They're easy, and a lot of them you pick up as you go, and you just have to be dedicated to actually learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Sometimes people are afraid to ask resellers questions, and I know there's some resellers who are very scarcity minded, so they are fearful of telling anybody anything, that they're going to somehow divulge their secrets and create new competition for them, and it's all going to go down the tubes. But most resellers aren't that way. Most resellers are open, they're friendly, they're happy to give you advice if you ask them a question about something. And if you have a question, ask me. I'm open. I'll tell you whatever you need to know about your business, whatever things I can help you with, I'll be happy to help you. But don't get in this negative mentality. And I'm not saying everybody who thinks that reselling is difficult, that they're negative. That's not the case. Maybe for them, it is more difficult than what they used to have as a job. But when you get out of that job mentality and get into a business owner mentality, you'll realize this is one of the easiest businesses that there is. Is it one of the easiest jobs? Not necessarily. There are certainly jobs that could be easier. But this is a business you're running. You approach it as a business owner, that entrepreneurial mindset. You're not approaching it as a job worker. Make sure to go into your reselling business positive, expecting the best, not expecting the worst, not expecting it to be a hard day. Oh, it's so difficult. No, it's easy. And you choose. I must reiterate this. You choose the difficulty level. It's like playing a video game almost. You choose easy or you choose difficult. A lot of the difficulty in the reselling community is coming from people's own mistakes, own bad choices, their own fears and insecurities. They're afraid to turn over a part of their business to an employee because, oh, it might wreck it. And there are some aspects of your business you probably should never turn over to an employee. Maybe the final listing should not be turned over to anybody else because you're the one that sees that. You can see, oh wait, why are they listing this item? Because you get big quantities of items as a reseller, and there might be things you don't even recognize that are in there that your lister lists, and you look at it and realize, wait, we don't list this. This is a zero item on eBay, for example. This will get my account a ding, and if I list this enough times, I might get suspended. We don't list this. But for the most part, as you're scaling up, you choose the difficulty level. If you want to list 3 items a day and you sell 3 items a day, that's not difficult. That is an easy business. And you choose whether to scale it up or not. Yes, when you're selling hundreds of items a day, it is a lot more work, but it's a lot of the same work. So it's not like you're having to do something completely different each and every time. You may have 100 items that sold that day, and it's the same process for processing them all. Even if you have different types of items, it's not difficult. You pack it up properly so it's going to be secure and safe. You weigh it, you measure it, you print up the shipping label, and you're on to the next one. And listing, you should have some sort of procedure for how you do that. You have a listing station or something, and that could just be a blanket on the floor. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. There's companies with $20,000 listing stations, and they list a few items a day. And meanwhile, you can list with a $5 blanket, or not even any dollar blanket, do blanket you have around the house, put your stuff on that, take pictures of it, and you're done. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I understand if you're a beginner, it can seem difficult, but you choose the level you're going to perform at. And probably realistically, if you're under 10 or 20 items sold a day, you're at a really easy level. And if you want to scale up to selling 100 items, 150, 500 items a day, then yes, that's going to be a different level that you're going to have to perform at, and your staff is going to have to perform at. But still, it is an easy business, and it's one of the easiest businesses that you can get into. So I want to encourage you today. Don't run away from when people are telling you it's too difficult, it's too hard, oh, you're going to have so many problems, you're going to have this and that, and you're going to have all these bad customers. That negative mentality will get you very, very poor results. Expect the best. Do your best legitimately, and watch as you become a great success as a reseller. I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.